And make sure to engage in comments and share this video to your friends and story lovers, and click on the subscribe button on the screen to subscribe to Inquisco for more real and true stories like this. I never thought I would be the kind of woman to stray. Not me, not in this marriage. But the heart is unpredictable, and temptation, real, undeniable temptation, has a way of creeping up on you when you least expect it. It started with small things. My husband, Ethan, had been distant for months, maybe even years now that I think about it. He was always busy, always tired, always somewhere else. Even when he was sitting right next to me, conversations had become shallow, our intimacy almost non-existent. I told myself it was normal, that all marriages went through phases like this. But then, there was him. His name was Akin. He worked in construction, one of the crews hired to renovate the office building where I worked. I noticed him because, well, how could I not? He was tall, confident, with dark, intelligent eyes that seemed to read me even before I spoke. He carried himself with an ease that made me feel small in the best possible way, like he knew things about the world that I didn't. And when he smiled, God, when he smiled, it felt like someone had opened a window in a room I didn't even realize had gone stale. It was innocent at first. I would see him on my way in, nod politely, maybe offer a smile, and he would return it, always with that slight tilt of his head, like he was genuinely curious about me. A few words here, a joke there, and soon it became something I looked forward to. I started leaving home earlier, timing my arrival so I could catch a glimpse of him. I told myself it was harmless, just a bit of excitement to break up the monotony of my days. But harmless things have a way of growing teeth. One evening I left work late, the sun already dipping below the skyline, and there he was, leaning against the side of the building, scrolling through his phone. He looked up as I walked past, and instead of just smiling and moving on, he spoke. "Rough day?" I stopped. Something about the way he said it made me feel like he actually cared about the answer. Not in the polite, meaningless way that people ask, but like he really wanted to know. I hesitated, then shrugged. "Long day?" He nodded, slipping his phone into his pocket. "I hear you. Some days you just want to walk away from everything, huh?" I exhaled a small laugh, glancing up at him. "Yeah, exactly." And just like that, something shifted. We talked for a while, about nothing really, about work, about how cold the evenings were getting, about the best coffee shops in the city. It should have been meaningless, but it wasn't. It felt good, too good. So I left before it could become something more. But the next day he was there again, and the day after that, and soon it became routine. A stolen moment here, a lingering glance there. It was thrilling in a way that I hadn't felt in years, like I was waking up from a sleep I didn't even know I had fallen into. One evening, when the office was nearly empty, he caught me as I was packing up. "Hey," he said, leaning against the doorway. "Let me walk you to your car." I should have said no. I should have laughed it off, told him I could handle myself, but I didn't, because the truth was, I wanted him to. We walked together, his presence close, his scent, earthy, warm, filling the space between us, and when we reached my car, we lingered. "You deserve to be happy, you know," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. My heart pounded. For the first time in years, I felt truly seen. And then, before either of us could do anything reckless, I forced a smile, mumbled a good night, and got into my car. But as I drove home, hands gripping the wheel too tightly. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was already too deep into something I couldn't control. I spent the entire drive home trying to convince myself that nothing had happened. Nothing at all. A walk to my car, a conversation, two people talking. That was it. But my body knew better. My hands trembled against the wheel. My breath came too shallow. My pulse a traitor in my own chest. I had done nothing wrong, yet I felt guilty. And worse, I felt something else. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. I barely heard my husband when I walked through the door. He was exactly where I had left him that morning, on the couch, laptop open, half watching some documentary about economics. He glanced up briefly, gave me a nod, then turned back to his screen. "Hey," he muttered. That was it. Not, "How was your day?" Not, "You look beautiful tonight." Not, "Come here, I missed you." Just, "Hey." I should have been used to it by now. This was how things were between us. Comfortable in a way that had turned into something else. Something lifeless. We used to be different. There was a time when we couldn't keep our hands off each other, when the simplest touch sent sparks down my spine. But time had worn us down, chipped away at the edges until we became this. Strangers in the same house, exchanging the same dull pleasantries every night. I told myself that's why I had let Akin walk me to my car. That's why I had lingered. That's why I let the heat between us build. Unspoken, but undeniable. Because for the first time in so long, I felt something again. But I wouldn't cross the line. I wouldn't. And yet, the next day, I found myself glancing at my watch every 10 minutes, heart pounding, waiting for the moment I would see him again. And when I did, everything unraveled. It started with a text. I don't even know how he got my number. Maybe I had mentioned my office line once. Maybe he had overheard a conversation. Maybe it was just dumb luck. But there it was. A message waiting for me right as I stepped into work. Akin. Morning, beautiful. Hope today's not as long as yesterday. I stared at my screen for too long, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I shouldn't reply. I knew that. But my heart was racing in a way that it hadn't in years, and before I could stop myself, I was typing back. Me. It already feels longer. A minute later, another message. Akin, meet me for lunch. I hesitated. Every part of me screamed to say no, to shut this down before it became something dangerous. But another part of me, the part that had been starved of attention, of excitement, of feeling, was louder. Me. Where? A pause. Akin. Let me surprise you. I didn't eat breakfast. I couldn't. The anticipation coiled too tightly in my stomach, making it impossible to focus. When noon rolled around, I practically jumped out of my chair, grabbing my coat and heading toward the exit, like a woman possessed. And there he was, waiting by the curb in a sleek, dark car, leaning against the door like he had all the time in the world. When he saw me, that slow, knowing smile spread across his lips, and my breath caught. "You really came," he said, opening the door for me. I should have turned around, walked away, gone back inside before I did something reckless. Instead, I slid into the passenger seat. He took me to a small restaurant tucked away in a quiet part of the city, the kind of place you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it. Intimate, dimly lit, the air filled with the scent of spices and something rich and savory, the kind of place that felt like a secret. We sat in a corner booth, away from prying eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I forgot about everything else. "You're different," he said after our food arrived, watching me as he swirled his drink in his glass. I raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" A small smirk played on his lips. "I think you already know." And God help me, I did. I had never been the kind of woman who sought attention. I never needed to be the center of anyone's world. But the way Akin looked at me, the intensity in his gaze, the quiet, unspoken hunger, it was intoxicating. He made me feel wanted. And I knew then, with terrifying certainty, that this wasn't something I could brush off. It wasn't a harmless flirtation. It was a current pulling me under, and I was sinking fast. The lunch stretched longer than it should have. We lingered over our plates, over our words, over the tension that thickened the air between us. He never touched me, not once, but I felt it. His presence, the heat radiating off him, the way his fingers brushed too close to mine when he reached for his drink. When we finally left, I expected him to drive me straight back to work. Instead, he pulled into a quiet parking lot by the river, cutting the engine. "Akin, just 5 minutes," he said. "No expectations, no pressure. I don't want this to end yet." I should have said no. I should have. Instead, I exhaled slowly and nodded. The silence stretched between us, thick with something we didn't dare put into words. My pulse roared in my ears as he turned to face me, his dark eyes locking onto mine. "You're not happy," he said softly. My throat tightened. I never said that. "You didn't have to." I swallowed hard. He was too close. The air felt too thin. Every nerve in my body screamed for me to move, to do something. And then his hand moved, just barely. Not to touch me, not yet, but close enough that I felt the heat of his skin. My body reacted before my mind could catch up, leaning ever so slightly into that invisible pull between us. A breath away, a heartbeat. One small movement, and everything would change. And then my phone rang. The sound shattered the moment like glass, making me jerk back, heart pounding. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking as I saw my husband's name flashing across the screen. Ethan. Reality crashed down on me, cold and suffocating. I was a wife. I had a home, a marriage. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced myself to answer. "Hey," I said, my voice tight, breathless. Ethan's voice was calm, too calm. "Where are you?" I glanced at Akin, whose eyes stayed locked onto mine, as if he already knew that something was about to happen. I forced a laugh. "Lunch break. Just grabbing a bite near the office." A pause. Then Ethan said something that sent ice straight through my veins. "Come home. Now." My mouth went dry. "Why?" Another pause. Then, in a voice that was sharp, steady, and eerily unreadable, he said, "Because I know." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Because I know." 2 words. That was all it took for my entire body to go cold. I sat frozen in Akin's car, gripping my phone so tightly that my knuckles turned white. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic, unsteady rhythm that echoed in my ears. I forced myself to breathe, to think, to act normal. "What do you mean?" I asked, keeping my voice light, casual, like I wasn't sitting in a car with another man, like I hadn't just been on the verge of something I could never take back. Ethan didn't answer right away. I heard the sound of something clinking in the background, maybe a glass against the counter, maybe his fingers tapping against something. Then, in that same unnervingly calm tone, He said, "Come home. Now." My stomach lurched. I didn't look at Akin as I grabbed my purse and opened the car door. I barely heard him call my name as I stepped out, my legs feeling like they belonged to someone else. I needed air. I needed to breathe. But mostly, I needed to figure out what Ethan knew. The drive home was the longest of my life. 100 different scenarios ran through my mind, each one worse than the last. Had someone seen me with Akin? Had Ethan found messages, overheard something? Or was this just paranoia eating me alive? By the time I pulled into our driveway, my hands were shaking so badly that I almost dropped my keys. The house looked the same, calm, undisturbed, but I knew that everything inside had changed. I stepped inside, heart hammering, and found Ethan sitting at the dining table. His laptop was open. A glass of whiskey sat beside it, untouched, and next to it, my phone. Or rather, my other phone, the one I thought I had hidden well, the one I used for messages I could never let him see. Every ounce of air left my lungs. Ethan didn't look up right away. He reached for the glass, swirling the whiskey slowly, methodically, before taking a sip. Then, finally, he lifted his eyes to mine. I had seen Ethan angry before, frustrated, even outright furious, but this was something else entirely. This was cold. "You forgot this at home," he said, holding up the phone. I almost didn't notice it. Almost. I opened my mouth, maybe to lie, maybe to explain, maybe to beg, but nothing came out. Ethan leaned back in his chair, exhaling sharply through his nose like he was trying to hold something back. "So tell me, darling, how long have you been sneaking around behind my back?" The way he said, "darling," made my skin crawl. It was mocking, venomous. I swallowed hard. "Ethan, Don't," he cut in. "Don't insult me with a lie." I looked away, guilt clawing at my throat. He sighed, running a hand down his face. "You know, I spent the last few hours thinking, wondering what I did wrong, how I didn't see it sooner, but then I realized." He let out a humorless chuckle. "It doesn't even matter, does it? The damage is done." I could barely breathe. "Ethan, please." He held up a hand. "I have one question." I nodded quickly, desperate for any opening. "Anything?" His eyes burned into mine. "Did you sleep with him?" A sharp silence filled the air. I should have said no. I should have, because it was the truth. We hadn't crossed that final line. But the way Ethan asked it, the weight behind his words, I knew that the truth wouldn't save me. My hesitation was all he needed. Ethan exhaled, shaking his head, something unreadable flashing in his eyes. "I see." I stepped forward, reaching for him. "I swear, it wasn't—" He flinched away, like my touch was poison. "You don't get to do that," he said, voice low, trembling with something barely restrained. "You don't get to play the victim here. Not after what you've done." Tears burned at the back of my eyes. "I never meant." "But you did." He stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. "You did." I shrank back, heart pounding. For the first time since stepping into the house, I realized something. Ethan wasn't just angry, he was calculating. And then he said something that made my blood run cold. "You think I don't know who he is?" He gave me a slow, cruel smile. "Your lover." I froze. Ethan grabbed his laptop, turned it toward me, and pressed play. A video. Security footage. Akin and me. In the parking lot by the river. Too close. Almost touching. His eyes on mine. My breath hitched. the undeniable pull between us clear as day, and then the phone call, the moment I answered, the way my face changed when Ethan spoke. My legs nearly gave out beneath me. I snapped my gaze back to Ethan. How did you really thought I wouldn't find out? He scoffed, shaking his head. I had a gut feeling, so I checked the security cameras, our security cameras. A choked sound escaped my lips. I had been so careful, or at least I thought I had been. But I had underestimated my husband. I braced myself for more yelling, for accusations, for anything. But Ethan didn't lash out. Instead, he pulled out his phone and pressed a button. A slow, eerie smirk curled on his lips. There, it's done. A sickening feeling crawled up my spine. What did you do? Ethan's eyes gleamed with something dark. Oh, you'll find out soon enough. The air felt thick, suffocating. Ethan, what did you do? His smile widened. Then in a voice that was calm, almost amused, he said, I got him deported. The room spun. My breath came in short, shallow gasps. No, you're lying. Am I? He tilted his head. Akin's here on a visa, isn't he? Well, not anymore. A little phone call, a little reporting of suspicious activity. You'd be amazed at how quickly things move when the right authorities get involved. My stomach twisted into a knot. Ethan, by this time tomorrow, immigration will be knocking on his door. He leaned in, his voice a whisper of steel, and he'll be on the first plane back to Nigeria. You'll never see him again. A strangled noise tore from my throat. This wasn't just revenge. This was annihilation. I staggered back, gripping the edge of the table to keep from collapsing. You can't. I already did. Tears blurred my vision. Akin's face flashed in my mind, his warmth, his touch, the way he had looked at me like I was something worth wanting. And now, I had destroyed his life, and Ethan had made sure of it. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Ethan leaned in closer, his voice eerily soft. You made your choice, darling. Now live with it. And then he walked away, leaving me alone in the wreckage. Click on the subscribe button on the screen to subscribe to Inquisco for more real and true stories like this.